First of all, I want to thank you for interviewing me, for talking with me. Let me give you an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about myself. I have been in Oakland for over 54 years. Moved here from Mississippi, and a great state to be from, by the way. And went to McClymonds High School, class of 72, Cal undergrad, Cal's Law School, and then on to practice law, clerk on the Ninth Circuit, and then went into a small firm, John Burris's law firm. I handled all kinds of cases there, including civil rights litigation, as well as civil and criminal matters in the state and federal courts. Then went into a large firm, Stephen Lauren Johnson and Bridges, and made partner there, an equity partner in 1989, effective 1990. Served there and continued to practice there until January 1992, when I got appointed to the Oakland Municipal Court by Governor Pete Wilson. And in 1998, the municipal courts and the superior courts merged, and I became a superior court judge in 1998. Stayed on the bench and retired in November 2019, so that was almost 28 years on the bench. In the course of that time, I handled every case imaginable in the courts there. In addition, I was presiding judge of our juvenile court for 4 years, presiding judge of the appellate division, handling appellate cases, and did civil, criminal, family, everything, family settlement conferences, complex litigation, so I handled all kinds of cases there. Broad range of experience there that I bring to this office, having handled every kind of case the city attorney's office sees, including cases involving when the city attorney's office was representing parties there.
Great. We're going to start with Jessica.
Okay, yeah, so here is a question. Please describe 2 impactful decisions made by the current city attorney that would be done differently in your lead city attorney's office. What would you have done differently, and what, if anything, did you do as a staff member to try and lead a different decision? Sorry, ignore the last part. Sorry. So yeah, please just answer the first part. So, what 2 impactful decision made by the current city attorney that would be done differently under your leadership?
I can, let me talk about the negotiated settlement agreement and the way that has been handled. I would certainly be much more aggressive in getting the Oakland Police Department out from under federal monitoring. I, quite frankly, don't think we've been aggressive enough. I think we have concentrated too much on just trying to be sort of nice to all the other parties instead of being an advocate. There are arguments that could have been raised, and in fact that we tried to raise when we were on when I was on the police commission, and Tafari was chair at the time, and we wanted issues raised to challenge the authority and actually the initial appointment even of the federal monitor. As you may know, we're paying the monitor more than $1 million per year. He has an interest in keeping the oversight going. We in Oakland are suffering. We have a budget crisis. We don't have enough money. That money needs to be staying in Oakland. One of my main priorities is to get us out from under the negotiated settlement agreement. Another recent example has to do with an issue surrounding Measure N now, where there just appears to have been poor legal analysis on that issue, legal advice that was given, and decisions made. Now there's a challenge to the measure going on the ballot, and what the ballot is going to say about that measure. Basic issues as to whether or not it requires 2/3 majority to pass or a simple majority to pass. Those kinds of issues should not be an issue at this point. And that analysis of the measure was made by the city attorney's office. City attorney's office, and that led to litigation. So now we have to pay an outside firm now to represent the city clerk's office in its lawsuit against the registrar of voters and the city attorney's office to say we got to correct some things in here. So that's pending litigation, and those kinds of things just, they wouldn't happen under my watch. I spent 27, almost 28 years on the bench doing nothing but analyzing the law and trying to figure out what is the best way to analyze legal issues. I have 45 years experience as a lawyer, and before I joined the bench. So those kinds of things are second nature to make sure that the issues are properly analyzed and we've considered everything. I believe also in high quality legal work, and we just have to take our time to do it. I could go on and on about some of the financial impacts, including the city's termination of the chief, Chief LaRon Armstrong. That's another lawsuit that the city's going to be looking at some liability for. So, and more money that will be going out. And a lot of that has to do with, again, just inadequate legal advice that's being given to city agencies and leaders.
Warren, do you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, I'm gonna skip the one that she already answered.
Okay.
So, despite practicing civil, criminal, family, all other types of law, and being a former judge and equity partner at a law firm, some may still question your knowledge of municipal law and ability to run a large department, approximately the size, a little less than 100 people, that is practicing municipal law in a large government agency. And I guess my first question is, how are you equipped to do so based on your experiences in the past? And then the second part of the question is, others may question the small benefit of having a fresh perspective in the city attorney role, and whether or not that benefit is worth the disruptive nature of having someone new come in and really start changing things around, not necessarily having the trust and the relationships and everything else that are in place. So can you speak to both of those aspects of coming into this role?
Sure.
Your readiness to do so.
Sure, thank you. With respect to practicing municipal law, I've been doing that for 45 years. This is not a new area. I've dealt with governmental tort regulations, governmental tort claims, immunity, all of those kinds of issues throughout my practice. So it's not something new that I will be entering into. I'm very familiar with all of the issues, and with respect to having a new perspective, we need a new perspective in the city attorney's office. Continuing to do things the same way without someone taking a look to say, is this working? What should we do? I think it's quite frankly dangerous, and it is inefficient. I am optimistic and have been reassured that there will be people in the office who will welcome a fresh face, a fresh outlook, a fresh perspective, and who is ready to work and look at how we can be even better, how the city attorney's office can be even better. I'm well equipped as well to handle what I call organizational change. When I came into the presiding judge of the juvenile court, that was a system that was essentially broken. And it had been done the same way on both the dependency side with abuse and neglect of children, as well as on the delinquency side when young people were charged with committing a crime. We needed to do some things differently. I had to bring all of the stakeholders to the table. We had to get buy-in. We had to figure out what was wrong and what we could do to make it better. All the time considering and thinking about what is in the best interest of the children and families in Alameda County. And with that overarching concern and perspective, we were able to talk through things. Sure, it was difficult, and people had their own way of doing it. We've never done it this way, we've never done it this way. But getting a different perspective made everybody see the wisdom of change and the wisdom of looking at how we can do things differently. And that is what we need in the city attorney's office as well. There are people who are just excited about new leadership in the office and ready to roll up their sleeves and get going. Sometimes their ideas have not been respected or appreciated. And we need, one thing we do know is that if we continue to do things the same way we've been doing them, we are not going to take the city and the city attorney's office where it needs to be. It's a new time, new demands, new challenges, and we need to be able to meet those challenges. We will not get it unless you get somebody in there who is willing to make the change, and more importantly, who has the courage to say, okay, we have to do this. And that's why part of my theme is integrity and independence and courage. It takes courage to change. I want to give you one other quick example. I don't want to run over, but let me tell you one of my most proud changes in terms of systems changes was the work on increasing diversity in the judiciary. In 2005, I was put in charge of a group to look into diversity in the court system and federal government, and federal governmental agencies, state governmental agencies. And when we started that process, we wanted to find out how diverse is our bench? How many Black judges are there in the state? How many women? How many Latinos? How many LGBTQI? How many, just what is going on? How many African Americans? How many Asian Pacific Islanders? We did not have that information available. We contacted our administrative office of the courts. We don't have that information. We don't know. We can't tell. And so what we did then was the group that I was working with, we started calling up and sort of what we call hand counting the diversity of the bench. And we said, how many Black people do you have on your court? How many women? Anyway, we had a summit in 2006, the first ever Judicial Diversity Summit. We brought the governor's office to the table. We brought the state bar to the table. We brought the court system to the table. We brought law schools. We brought everybody to the table. And what we did was, during the presentation, we showed the lack of diversity on our courts. Counties that had huge numbers of ethnic minorities, and there was not one ethnic minority on the bench. And so you have people coming into our court system who didn't see anybody who looked like them, not only on the bench, but in staff or anything of the sort. And that after that summit, what we did, legislation was passed that requires annual demographic reports now, so that the governor's office has some accountability. How many people are applying and are getting through, diverse candidates? So how many African Americans were applied? How many did you appoint? With respect to the state bar, they did the evaluation of candidates. Many people of color were not getting high evaluations, and particularly with respect to Asians, they could not get through. Members of the API community couldn't get through the Jenny Commission to get good evaluations, good ratings. So then there would be the excuse that, well, we don't have qualified people. Same African American, same with women. Women, almost 50% of the population. They were less than a quarter of the bench when we started out. That number has changed and increased dramatically. But it took the courage, and I was willing to stand up and say, we owe Californians better. And so not only did we increase diversity on the bench in terms of the typical and traditional groups of women, ethnic minorities, but also in terms of the disabled, the LGBTQI community. All those things are now reported in the annual report. Our bench looks so much better than it did. We still have a long way to go, but it's a rare occasion where you have a particularly sizable bench that doesn't look like California. And that, quite frankly, is my proudest achievement, and one of the things that I continue to get honored for that work, and it was definitely transformative for our justice system and made it better for the entire state.
Thank you. We have about 6 minutes for follow-up questions. Who wants to start?
I've always got a question, so if anybody else wants to jump in, I feel like I've been
And I hope I answered all parts of your question. Did I get to the other part about it?
Yes, I think you did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be great. I'm just gonna be great. Whatever challenges there are, I will rise to the occasion, and everybody will think it was their idea in the first place anyway.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So, I've been working in Oakland Chinatown, and then so I actually learned that, a lot of our neighborhood, they face a lot of different crime and, or some cases that they don't know who to ask for. And so I always feel like we are disconnected from the city attorney's office. And I believe that all different communities, they have their own issues, but pretty much then it's like all disconnect. So what do you think? Do you have any idea or plan, like if you are in the city attorney's office, what you're gonna bring people to connect with you or your staff?
When I'm head of the city attorney's office, I will have an open door policy. I want members of the community at the table. In fact, some members of the community have already said, I'm gonna give you 2 months in office, and then I'm coming knocking on your door because I wanna be at the table. I wanna tell you what our real problems are and how the city attorney's office can help us and how our neighborhoods can improve. So one of the things you have to do, people need to feel listened to. And I learned that on the bench as well. Often, it didn't matter whether you ruled in favor of someone or not. It was whether they felt you listened to their concern and whether you tried to do what you could to address it. And if you didn't, whether they understood why you didn't rule for them. And so that is, that's important. That level of communication is important. And the community needs to know that the city attorney's office is the attorney for everybody in Oakland, not just the mayor and the governmental agencies, but we're the attorney for the citizens. And their concerns have to be addressed. So I will have an open door policy. I will invite citizens groups in, hoping to have task forces and other things to address issues. We've got to do something about the environmental issues, particularly affecting our communities of color, and enforcing our environmental regulations to make sure that dumping and the other health and safety issues aren't ignored.
Great, thank you. Lauren?
Can you speak to the, the role of politics and political considerations for an elected city attorney?
Political considerations, I will say that the elected city attorney, there's a certain beauty in that because you are elected. You're not beholden to an appointing authority that you have to keep happy. However, you do have some more immediate clients. But for me, it is about what does the law require? What does the law say? And how do we comply with the law? Sometimes I think decisions are made for political expediency, which I think is dangerous. And I'm going to give you an example with respect to the mayor's election. She had no business being on the ballot. Her name should never have appeared on the ballot because she filed her papers late. Were I city attorney, it would have been, I'm sorry, your papers are late, we have a deadline. If we enforce it fairly with respect to everybody, then nobody can say that anybody got special treatment. But she was given special treatment, and I'm just gonna look at where we are, let me just put it that way. But that would not happen. That would not happen under my leadership. The employees who may be dealing with someone who is trying to be above the law would be given the reassurance that your job's going to be protected. You don't have to worry about adverse employment actions or anything because you are following the law. I would expect you to follow the law. Bump it up to me anyway. But no, stop it right then and there. The other thing with that was that an African-American candidate, Alyssa Victory, the city attorney's office thought that she had done something wrong and her name shouldn't go on the ballot. city attorney's office, my opponent was wrong. Alyssa sued, and she won, because she knew the city charter much better than my opponent knew it. But that led to litigation, and that led to all kinds of confusion. So if you have somebody who gives compliance with the law priority and says, I'm going to enforce it no matter what's at issue and who the parties are, you will avoid a lot of hard feelings. You will save the city some money, and you would have sent the message that everybody's going to be treated fairly. And my strong sense of justice just says that ought to be just standard operating procedure. We'll avoid a lot of confusion that way.
Any questions?
I have one. Actually, while I think about mine, would someone else like to go? I'm just gonna formulate mine.
I'll jump back in.
Yeah, great.
How familiar are you with, well, actually, one of the complaints and criticisms of the city attorney's office is the amount of money that's spent on outside litigation. What is your plan or approach relative to addressing that and making sure that we still have the highest quality, both affirmative and defensive legal services?
It is one of my top priorities. That's one of my top 3 priorities, to reduce the number, the use of outside counsel. But 46 attorneys or something in the city attorney's office, that's a nice sized law firm. And so there's no reason in the world that there should be from where I sit, there's no reason in the world that there should be such heavy reliance on outside counsel. Develop the in-house expertise if you don't already have it, and let the attorneys, we're already paying those attorneys to do the legal work. We pay an outside firm to do the same legal work that we're paying the city attorneys to do. The other problem with the use of outside counsel is that there's not enough oversight. I've been outside counsel for municipalities, so I know how billing can work and everything else, and I also know how decisions are made and can be made, litigation decisions. So I think there has to be, first of all, an evaluation and look and see how much money are we spending, what kinds of cases are we sending out. Some it appears that they're going out routinely when they should stay in-house. And also to evaluate whether we are overspending on cases that are going outside. Some of the decisions that are made in terms of appealing orders and decisions that do not appear to have enough of a legal analysis done before you decide on next steps. Sometimes it's time to call to, you should say, put that little barking puppy to bed. There's no need of fighting it anymore. And if you're throwing good money after bad, it just doesn't make any sense. So there's built-in inefficiency. So it is to do, my first step is going to be to do a comprehensive evaluation. What cases are going out, at what stage are they, and what can we do, even at this late date, to bring them back in-house. And the decision, I'd set up a different process, a process I'd like to be more hands-on, because I do have the experience of having been outside counsel, been a partner in a large firm, supervised staff and everything else. And by the way, and not just my courtroom and everything, but in the entire juvenile court when I was presiding judge of the juvenile court, multiple levels of employees dealing with lawyers and professionals. So it is to make sure that we know what we're doing, and we know what is going on in the case. And there are some cases that I've heard a lot about that I can't wait to get in and do an evaluation of and see why we are where we are, and why have we spent so much money on some of these cases when we should not have. So that's what I'll do. And I'm not naive enough to think that you can step in on day one and start making changes. That would be suicidal. You have to build a team. You got to build consensus. You have to make sure that you have some followers. And as somebody said, a leader without any followers is just somebody out taking a walk. And that is, you can't walk by yourself. You can't say you're the leader and nobody wants to go along with you. You need buy-in. And again, I'm optimistic that I will get that buy-in. I've been reassured that there are enough people in the office who will be ready to turn the ship around, so to speak. And there's not a slight, I know Barbara Parker, I've known her for years and stuff. Ryan, I have dealt with Ryan in terms of, since I got on the police commission, and I don't want to bash my opponent, but I will have to tell you that some of the decisions I saw being made when I was on the police commission were mind-boggling. They were simply wrong on the law, and there was not enough pushback. If there was pressure from somebody to do certain things, there wasn't enough pushback. And I did not see the courage to say, I'm not going to do it. Did not see the courage to say, we need to make these arguments that the police commission wants to make. Didn't see enough pushback to make sure even that the Oakland police, the police department felt that it actually had an advocate in that courtroom. And you want to get along and everything, but you have to realize too, there has to be an advocate. So sometimes it doesn't seem that there's anybody who's representing Oaklanders in the Oakland Police Department in that litigation. And even John Burris thought that the chief's termination, for example, was wrong. And he said that. And we on the police commission felt it was wrong. And we would never have terminated him. Would have saved the city some money and another lawsuit.
I had a question, just a quick one. There are two cases before the city, and it's a case. There are two cases against two women who got let go from the Department of Violence Prevention. Are you familiar with the cases?
Not the details.
I guess, where do you see the city attorney's role in personnel matters? And given these two cases that are alleging misconduct, abuse, and sexual harassment, it's not just about the two cases that are in front of the city, but in the aftermath, where do you see the city attorney office's role in advising the city administrator or the departments to make sure that it doesn't happen again?
The city attorney needs to do the city attorney's job and to advise properly and correctly all of those agencies and boards and commissions and stuff to make sure that they are complying with the law. If the message is that you have to comply, then that you set the expectation, you can avoid some of the issues. And then some of the things that happen, some of the things that happen in response to complaints is not always the best response, in that sometimes claims are minimized or there is retaliation on the part of people who may be, or threats of retaliation, who may want things done differently and who may want a different approach. And so the city attorney, we're going to advise boards, commissions, and everything. We have to give them the proper advice. We have to step in, but in a way, yes, step in and make sure that workers' rights are protected, that whistleblowers are protected, and that we have a sense of fairness and a sense of justice through the city attorney's office. So yes, I see a role, more preventive one, to try to make sure we don't get to the point where we're having lawsuits. And I think we can achieve that. Everybody can sue, no matter all those years on the bench, everybody can sue, whether they got a good case or not, it doesn't stop
Thank
people
you.
from suing. So,
Thank you so much. We are in time.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
We have time for one last, or are we out of time?
We can go.
We go a quick one.
Or we have someone downstairs?
Yeah, we have someone downstairs, but like a quick one if we can keep it within a minute.
Just curious about, you were talking about the potential independence of the city attorney's office. And I wanted to know, how you will ensure that your office remains independent and free from political influence while you aggressively pursue the actions you want for these issues you've discussed.
you make sure you're independent by remaining independent and sending the message from the top down to your subordinates that we're going to apply the law equally. We are not going to give special favors because you don't want anybody feeling that the city attorney's office is just a political office and it's just going to do whatever whatever they like it is at the time they like. So that's not the message that I will send, and I will ensure that it just doesn't happen. You won't stop people from trying, but you sometimes may need to make an example to make sure that everybody knows you're serious about that office policy, that office culture. And it can be difficult to change culture, but it can be changed. I'm a witness to it. And people who were kicking and screaming about judicial diversity, this affirmative action, you want unqualified judges on the bench. It's like, what are you talking about? We're talking about appointing highly qualified judges to the bench. Nobody wants special treatment. I know you'll say it was just coincidental that it's a majority white males on the bench and former prosecutors, but I don't buy that, and the people who were fighting for judicial diversity didn't buy it, and guess what? The governor's office and the state bar, everybody started doing better. We started getting a better looking bench.
Thank you so much for that answer. And thank you for interviewing with us.